right, guys. We can't have a long show today because outside the window of our studios, there's a giant monster. They're calling him Godzilla. Welcome to another episode of Project Geekology. I am one half your host, Anthony, and joining me, as always, is
Dakota. And yeah, we're going to be talking about Godzilla 2014 as per your request. Your vote, rather. We have, over the past couple of weeks, been polling you guys for what you wanted, and this week you guys voted for Godzilla 2014. And honestly, I couldn't be happier, because this is a film that I feel like gets a lot of flack. I think a lot of people have forgotten it, and I think it's actually held up surprisingly well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Watching it again this week, I felt like I had a new appreciation for it. I don't know if I appreciated it as much the first time that I saw it, but I feel like I enjoyed it a little bit more this time around. It's a fun movie, so yeah, I enjoy kaiju movies, Godzilla being the most popular one out there. When you think about that genre, that and then King Kong maybe yeah. A couple others. So, but Godzilla, top of that list. It's always, and I always enjoy myself when I watch a Godzilla movie.
Godzilla vs. Kong is coming out in a couple weeks now. I mean, it's probably going to be right upon you guys the moment that this finally drops in a couple weeks. I think in like a week and a half this will drop, and then that week is when the actual sequel comes out, Godzilla vs. Kong, which will be the fourth movie in the MonsterVerse that Legendary and Warner Brothers has put out. After, of course, this film, Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and then, yes, of course, Godzilla vs. Kong. So I'm very excited for that. The trailers look very exciting.
Same. I actually need to watch Skull Island. That's the one that I have not seen.
It's a weird thing that they did where they decided to go back to the 70s, like in their own little timeline for a timeline period piece on the character of Kong. And yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. I didn't like it the first time I saw it. Maybe in a similar way that you didn't necessarily appreciate Godzilla 2014 when you first saw it. But and I need to rewatch Skull Island as well, because I think I've only seen it the one time. But I'd like to see it before watching Godzilla vs. Kong.
I did like King of the Monsters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. But yeah, we are here for Godzilla 2014. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we've been up to this week. What have you been up to, Dakota?
This morning I was off work, actually, so I got the chance to finally read a short comic book that came out a couple weeks ago. It's like in the Avatar universe. It's a one-off of Toph Beifong's Metal Bending Academy that occurs after the Avatar show. So that was a nice little, just a fun little adventure with Toph, and Sokka's in it a little bit, but also her metal bending students that she comes to grow with. Well, I mean, I can talk about WandaVision, because that finally finished, and that's the big thing that has happened since we recorded last. The finale has dropped. We have finally gotten all the answers that we're gonna get in terms of WandaVision. Some people were pretty fairly dismayed about some of the results, I guess, of the answers that they received, but I was pretty satisfied by the finale. It gave me everything that I was expecting from specifically a Wanda and a Vision storyline. So I'm happy about that. What did you think of the WandaVision finale?
Oh, the WandaVision finale, I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people were pretty upset about it because there was a lot of theories out there that did not come to fruition.
It was interesting.
Being a fan and hearing theories on stuff, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to respect the fact that those are theories and that they're not always going to come true.
Even if the theories are better than what you actually get. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Exactly. This is the first time that a Marvel Studios project has come out over the course of several weeks. I think 7 weeks in total. And I think that kind of really messed with people, because we're used to, speculating before movies come out and after a movie comes out. But you never pause a movie like every 30 seconds or every 30 minutes and talk about it for a week to figure out what's going to happen next. So this was a very interesting thing for Marvel Studios to do in terms of, let's lengthen out the movie, make it almost a 6-hour show, and then break it up into 30-minute, 40-minute chunks for you to enjoy week after week. And I think people...
I did think it was... Oh, my bad.
I think people are spoiled by the MCU giving them what they want. And with a show like this, over time, your expectations grow, So I think, to some extent, the fan vitriol at the end was partially deserved, or partially warranted. But I do think that everyone should keep their expectations in check, because your expectations are never going to meet reality.
Right. And that's the biggest thing, and this is a lesson for everything in life. Make sure you set your expectations reasonably and be open to if those expectations don't pan out, I mean, it's okay to be disappointed, but you got to be rational about really what you got. I mean, because in all honesty, I think that it was pretty good. I enjoyed the ending. It was crazy.
Overall, it's one of those things that this particular show is one of those unimaginable things that Marvel Studios is capable of. Nobody 5 years ago would have ever thought, hey, we're going to have a sitcom-based reality show that's all in Wanda's head / universe that she creates. And it's going to, it's going to evolve out of her grief, basically, and make a satisfying show and evolution to certain characters. It's a fascinating concept, what they were capable of doing. And as a project as a whole, I think once people get out of their own, once people get out of their own shoes and actually watch it for what it is, as a piece of art that's made by hundreds of people over thousands of hours of labor, it's amazing what they were capable of doing. So I'm super pleased with it.
I do think that we should make an episode about this show, because there were some storylines that they pulled from to create this show, and I think it's interesting what they did. And I think it's really interesting what the MCU has done for certain characters in Marvel. Because, I mean, we talked about Iron Man, how Iron Man was not even barely on anybody's radar until the 2008 movie came out. And then he became bigger, especially with the more of the movies that came out. A lot of people didn't really care about Vision or Scarlet Witch. I mean, I know a couple people who do like Scarlet Witch, but you really don't hear much about the Vision.
Yeah, it's one of those things, if you're a fan of the comics, it's really awesome. It's really awesome that these characters exist in this world and that you're experiencing them in live action. That's awesome, And I have my share of comics with Scarlet Witch. I have my share of comics with Vision in them. And I was happy to see them on screen, but they were never my favorite characters in the MCU. But because of this show, that has bumped both of those characters up so high. For me, because of the emotional resonance that they were capable of doing in the final episode, or the final couple episodes, really.
It's cool. It's funny that you bring up WandaVision, because it's actually pretty relevant to our discussion today.
Actually, yeah, that's a great point. We'll talk about that in a little bit, though. We'll segue that later.
Yeah, for sure.
Anthony, what have you been up to this past week besides WandaVision?
Besides that, well, I've been diving into Light of the Jedi. I've been reading into that. I think I'm on a pretty good pace to finish up soon, and I've been really getting into web development and kind of learning code like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I think it's fascinating, and it's something that I would love to do down the line, is building websites and learning more programming languages and stuff. But it can be tough. I mean, there's times where I get stuck. But, I mean, I've been doing that. I watch Godzilla, of course. Those are like the biggest things for me this week.
Oh, and before we forget, I actually posted a new video about Light of the Jedi and the High Republic and all that. It's like a timeline of all the books and the comics in like a reading order. So if you're interested at all in that, please be sure to check out Geekritique, the YouTube channel.
Yes, do that.
And I actually got some validation in terms of one of the writers of the comic series, DJ Older, Daniel Jose Older, kind of confirmed to me like the general placement of something, which I appreciated on Twitter. So
nice.
So that was cool. But other than that, I don't think I've, besides rewatching Godzilla again and everything. Raya and the Last Dragon. I got that on Disney Plus as a premiere thing.
Did you end up doing that for that?
Yeah, I did, and it's really good. It's like
Is it really?
It's a really good animated film. Yeah, it's
nice.
The animation's beautiful. Some of the shots are just gorgeous. The music is great. The story is really interesting. It's kind of like it's like a story of like Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained sort of thing. But it takes place in like a maybe like a Southern Asian world, basically. Like it takes a little bit from here, it takes a little bit from there, and it also it incorporates a lot of like martial arts as well. So
nice.
Yeah, so South
enjoy
Asian,
that.
Yeah, South Asian martial arts is really cool. Yeah,
there's a couple of movies that I need to watch that are on Disney Plus. Like I haven't seen Soul or Onward.
Soul is fantastic. Onward is also fantastic. Both of those Pixar movies are really good. Soul, I thought I was going to cry more. It's one of those things that looks like it's going to be terribly sad, but it was. I mean, it is. It's a sad movie, but it's not crippling. It's not crippling emotionally. Onward, surprisingly, I was like way more tearful at the end of that.
Did you see this right here?
I heard about it. Yeah. So
there's going to be a live action Powerpuff Girls show.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, so going back to that, Raya and the Last Dragon, it uses like a mix of Muay Thai and Pencak Silat.
Okay, that's cool.
Yes, and it looks really cool. So I highly recommend it. I'm actually seeing it again tomorrow night. I think I'm going to a drive-in theater with Jen and some friends.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah, so I recommend
awesome.
it. All right, should we jump into our discussion of Godzilla 2014? What do you say?
Yeah, man, let's do it. Let's get into it.
All right, so where to even begin? So in the beginning of the movie, you see all those clippings of newspapers and like found footage or government footage of the like bombings in the Pacific, specifically the nuclear tests that they were doing back then. They work it into the Godzilla story, the Godzilla mythos for this movie, and that ties into both the 90s Godzilla movie that we got in America. I think it was 98 that film released, or 99, and also
the New York one.
Yes, yeah, the one with
the one
Matthew Broderick, and yeah, I mean when we were kids it was awesome, but going back to watch it is kind of cringe. It's very cringe. But that film, as well as the 1954 Godzilla, the original Gojira from Japan, they reference both of those in kind of that little opening. So later in the film, Ken Watanabe's character, Dr. Serizawa, actually says that what they were like trying to attack in 54 was Godzilla, or this beast that they found in the ocean. And 1954 was the original Godzilla movie. And that movie was actually, it was kind of like a social commentary on nuclear power. It's this giant lizard who has like atomic breath, and he's destroying cities. And it's very, it's taking a look at like the destructive powers that can be wielded with like a nuclear threat. And so using that idea and then twisting it into, well, in 54, the same year that the original Godzilla film came out, they were bombing the Pacific, and that was kind of not necessarily what brought this Godzilla to life, because he existed before that. It's just an interesting little like twist to that storyline. And if you remember in the 90s Godzilla movie with Matthew Broderick, the one that is in New York, it was actually Godzilla was a iguana in the, I guess, the Pacific or the Galapagos Islands. I don't know where they were bombing, but it was a nuclear test that like brought the lizard to life as this giant Godzilla thing. And so they kind of took a little bit of this and a little bit of that with this movie and created Godzilla 2014.
Well, if you think about it, that Godzilla that took place in America, it was very skinny, so it was like iguana-like.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it is really an interesting route that they went with giving Godzilla atomic breath. Because usually when you think of a big creature like that, they usually like breathe fire, you know? Usually giant creatures that breathe anything, it's fire.
You mean,
know,
like
or
historically through like mythology and stuff, like dragons and stuff.
Right, dragons. I mean, even it's usually like an acid or a sludge or some sort of thing. But with Godzilla, yeah, it's that atomic breath.
Now, the 90s,
it was interesting.
The 90s Godzilla did not include any like atomic breath or anything. He was just a giant lizard attacking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was the Japanese version, the old school.
Right.
That had that. Yeah.
When they finally do show the atomic breath in this coming movie, or I mean, this when they finally show the atomic breath in this movie, it's one of the coolest scenes ever. Because in the trailers, they didn't show anything about like him having atomic breath. When they finally do show the atomic breath in this movie, it's bonkers. Because in the trailers, they don't actually show Godzilla having any atomic breath. They kind of kept that secret from any previews or trailers that existed before watching Godzilla 2014. I remember being in the theater and being like so excited when like Godzilla's tail started like lighting up behind the Muto, and you just saw him just like, and the stupid atomic breath comes out. It's so sick, man. I love that.
You knew what was coming when you saw it like charging up.
Oh like, yeah, and it goes up the scales, dude. It's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, no, it's really really cool. Oh, Godzilla itself is just, it's an interesting character. It's an interesting like thing that was created, and when you think about Godzilla, like that Godzilla series is as popular as, you know, Star Wars. It's as popular as like, you know, some of these like well-known things out there. I mean, everybody knows who Godzilla is. Godzilla has been referenced in so many things. Mm-hmm. I mean, they even referenced Godzilla. If I remember correctly, it was in Jurassic Park, the Lost World, when the T-Rex went onto the mainland. It was on San Diego, and like these two Japanese guys were like running away from it, but it was very like, it was cut in a way that it was obviously ripping from Godzilla.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I forgot.
So
about that.
I mean, but you see that in so many ways. You know, you see Godzilla throughout so much like pop culture. You know, it's an icon.
Question. I think this is important to the conversation. And that's not the only kaiju that they reference in the Jurassic Park series. So in the first Jurassic Park movie, they actually reference King Kong. When they're going into Jurassic Park for the first time, Ian Malcolm, he goes, "What do you got in there, King Kong?" When they're going through the gates. Because it kind of looks like
it makes sense, yeah. For the setting, it does, yeah.
But are you Team Kong or Team Godzilla for the new movie?
Oh man, this is hard. But I know a lot of people are backing Godzilla just because Godzilla is the one with like the superpower. But I have to go with Godzilla because I like Godzilla. I like Godzilla more than I like King Kong, even though I do like King Kong.
Yeah,
but Godzilla has always been something that, because there's more Godzilla out there.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
So I've consumed more Godzilla than King Kong, and I love that all of these things have already been, they've already showed this stuff in movies, well, like way back in the day. But that Godzilla is still so relevant that we're all excited to see this in like an updated version, you know?
Yeah.
Like people are dying to see, and it looks like this new movie is gonna have it, is to see, a little bit of it at least, is to see, Godzilla face off, Mecha Godzilla. Now that's a fight that everybody wants to see. Especially, I mean, Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong. I mean, like everybody wants to see that too, but I know a lot of people are like, man, I want to see that Mecha Godzilla fight. Like,
what's crazy is that going from this movie, Godzilla 2014, to Godzilla versus Kong, like where does this world get the tech for making a giant mech Godzilla? Because it's a huge leap. You know, you have Monarch, like the main like monster hunting or monster tracking society in this world. Monarch. In this movie, they basically they can barely even track these things. You know, they can barely track the fact that there's two of them. They need like the theories of Bryan Cranston's Joe Brody to like even like confirm what their suspicions are. So it goes pretty far from like that to whatever they're capable of. Not Monarch being able to create those things, but the world in general as we know it. Because the technology in Godzilla 2014 seems pretty contemporary. And to think that we, like in 2021, are capable of building a giant mech monster like that seems highly unlikely. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. If they like flesh it out, or if it's just going to be like, you know, it's Pacific Rim now.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I was literally about to say, oh yeah, they hit up the folks that have those. What were they called? The mechs.
Jaegers.
They borrowed Jaeger technology and they fashioned it into Godzilla. Yeah. Oh man. And so I think, like, I know that we're kind of, you know, talking about not really too much into the movie, but one thing I do have to say, and I will always love this, is just how corny some of these Godzilla movies get. Like, I mean, they get ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Especially
crazy.
Like the really old Japanese ones. Surprisingly, the first one, 1954's Godzilla or Gojira, is really good. You know, it's a really good movie, and it's a horror movie, and it's like a monster movie, but they play it legit. You know, as soon as that movie's over and the series continues, it's campy as all heck.
Was it the son of Godzilla?
Oh man, what a dumb movie!
Godzilla goes to space.
What about the third movie in the series is Godzilla vs. Kong, or King Kong? Godzilla vs. King Kong, and it's campy. Yeah, it's kind of corny, but it's still really good in the sense that, like, you know, you're actually getting these two giants of cinema fighting each other. And King Kong predates Godzilla by almost 20 years, maybe 15 years. But it's still like such a fantastic thing to get those two together. And King Kong, I guess we're just talking about kaijus in general at this point. You know, we're bouncing.
It's hard.
We're bouncing between like Pacific Rim and King Kong,
right?
And the classic movies and the new movies and the American movie. But
see, you can't talk about Godzilla without talking about kaijus in general.
Right.
You know?
You even brought up like the Jaeger thing, like thinking about like that word, it basically means like a suit. And if you think about Attack on Titan, the main character's name is Eren Yeager, and what is his ability? He can basically turn himself into a giant, like, colossal titan that can combat other titans. Yeah, he's a Jaeger. It's cool, just the mythos around giant monsters, the kaiju. I think that's what I love about this series most, and it's like brought to life in this movie really well, is that there's a history here. There's a lore behind these monsters. They even go so far as to show the carcass of an ancient Godzilla in the Philippines that they discover like early on in the film. Yeah, that's really cool, you know. And like back in 1999, they found this ancient carcass of a Godzilla that predates Godzilla, and inside it, basically, that's where they discover the Mutos, like hibernating, probably because of like that's where his atomic breath was and everything. So they were kind of feasting on whatever that was. You can go deep into like the Monarch lore, the Godzilla lore in this world, and I've taken a few dives into it just because, not only for YouTube and everything, but because it's such a fascinating like concept, like creating a new lore for Godzilla and all these monsters in general. And I think they're doing a really good job of it. Whether the stories are as good as the lore, I guess is a different story. You know, a lot of people really had some problems with specifically the King of the Monsters storyline. Like, it is kind of like ridiculous if you really break it down into its parts, but the lore behind everything is what like really draws me in, because it makes the world feel real. You know, it gives the world a little bit of vibrancy, or a lot of vibrancy in this case. So that was really introduced in this movie, in the original Godzilla 2014. And I was thinking about it this week, actually. And I think pretty much everything that I've ever been into has been lore heavy. You know, whether the story's good or not, everything that I've been into has been like heavily steeped in its own little lore. Like, I've always loved Kingdom Hearts. What is the story about? You know, past the first game, I can barely tell you. But the lore is super good. You know, it's a really deep lore, and you know, it's mixed in with all the Disney worlds and everything. But what this series has told me, like, why I enjoy King of the Monsters and stuff so much, is because of like how it's able to take that lore and build upon it, you know, slowly in this case. But yeah. So let's actually dive into the story. We're like 35 minutes into our recording at this point. So yeah, we get to 99. They discover that there is something that's been causing semi-earthquakes and collapses in the Philippines, like in a mine. And then the earthquakes travel to a fictional city in Japan. I think it's Janjira or something like that. And we are introduced to Bryan Cranston and his wife. I forget who is playing his wife. Maybe I'm looking at the cast
Juliette
now. Binoche, yeah. They're playing Joe Brody and Sandra Brody, respectively, and they both work at a nuclear plant over there in Janjira. It's a really interesting way to start the movie. What are your thoughts on that point in the story?
I agree, because it's pretty much starting off the action pretty early. Mm-hmm. You know, there's all this seismic activity going on. They don't know what's going on. They don't know the actual source. They can't locate where the epicenter was, and you don't really know what's going on. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening. Things are they're setting stuff off. And then things just start falling apart. You don't know exactly what's happening at this point in the film.
Right, and you start getting
really just shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, you start getting like these meltdown procedures that are happening in this power plant. And, you know, this is coming a few years after the Fukushima like tsunami event that, you know, culminated in a nuclear meltdown type event in the area. So it's almost... I don't know if that was intentional on this movie's part, but the parallels were there, and it's hard not to see them, you know? Like, anyone watching the movie with any, like, knowledge of the event will think, oh, wow, this happened a few years ago in Fukushima. So, it's an interesting way to start the movie, and it's a quick way to reach people's like emotional centers when they start the movie, because that's where you want to get people when you start like a new movie that you have no idea what you're getting into. And
right,
Bryan
yeah,
Cranston,
this whole thing, yeah, the whole nuclear power plant crumbles to the ground, and you don't know why at that point what happened.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
I will say Bryan Cranston in this in the first 20 minutes here really sold the role of, you know, just the loving husband, basically. You know, he's his wife is doing some job that's very dangerous. Obviously, she's in a hazmat suit before stuff starts going down, and he has to basically close the door on her before they can even get out, which is one of the most heartbreaking like scene. It is actually the most heartbreaking scene in the movie, and it happens pretty early on. Bryan Cranston, man, he is such a fantastic actor. I wish they would have kept him for longer, but his role in this movie really was fantastic.
Yeah, he did a great job. And with Bryan Cranston, I know a lot of people, when they think of him, they think of that TV show Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
But when I think about him, I think about the dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yep.
That's how I remember him, as Hal. And it's funny because you look at the portrayal, that character in Godzilla, and you're like, man, he has good range.
Absolutely.
Because you see him in Malcolm in the Middle, he's this goofy dad that's like really corny and campy, and then he can pull off something with heavy emotion in it. So yeah, I agree, he did a great job.
That storyline kind of ends there, and you go 15 years later, 2014, and Ford, the young boy, Bryan Cranston's son, in the beginning, is now, what is he, a Marine? Army? I actually don't remember.
I think he was. I know he was at ordnance disposal. Explosive ordnance disposal.
Yeah, you want to cover this part just because I don't know like.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no. Well, I mean, he's in the military. He's in EOD, explosive ordnance disposal, and he's coming back home. It seemed like he was on a deployment, and so he's coming back home to his family. I mean, fast forward through all these years. I mean, you don't see it, but I mean, he has a wife and a kid, and Ford Brody is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, which is also known for Quicksilver and in the Avengers, and he also played the main character in the movie Kick-Ass. And his wife is Elizabeth Olsen, which plays Wanda, his sister, in the Avengers. So I thought that was interesting when I saw this. I was like, man,
what's cool
this is
that,
crazy.
So yeah, this came out the year before Age of Ultron, where Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor Johnson would reprise. Well, they won't reprise, but they come together to work again. But in Godzilla 2014, they play a husband and wife duo, and in Age of Ultron, they play brother and sister. So it's just a really like, what are the chances of that? And it's only a year apart, you know?
I know. I started laughing. I was like, oh man, this is awkward.
A little bit, yeah. It is.
I don't know. I thought I really did think it was interesting because I'm like, man, what are the chances that they would be casted together in two movies and not that far apart? I mean, a year it's really not that far apart. Because, I mean, when you think about it, there had to have been... Do you think there might have been some overlap between the movies, or they might have went to Avengers right after Godzilla?
They probably did. They probably took the same flight, man.
It was interesting, yeah.
So
but their husband and wife
Godzilla
in this
2014
film,
came out on May 16th in the US. And then May 16th, 2014. And Age of Ultron came out May 1st, 2015. So, yeah, it was basically a year apart, almost to the day, that they went from husband and wife to brother and sister.
Interesting.
Just a crazy coincidence there, but it's a cool one, you know, and it's timely now that we're talking about WandaVision and stuff. We should do a whole episode on WandaVision soon.
Oh, yes, for sure. And talk about some of the storylines that they pulled from. So, yeah, I mean, he's back with his family. They have a kid together, and he finds out that his father was arrested by the police in Japan because he was trespassing in the exclusion zone, which is the area that was quarantined off when the nuclear power plant fell apart, and you know there's the nuclear fallout. And so Ford has to go get his father.
Yeah, he has to bail him out.
And he has to bail him out, and you know they get together. Their relationship at this point is pretty fractured because of, over the years, his father wasn't convinced that it was a natural disaster that caused the nuclear power plant to break apart,
right,
or to collapse. And so, you know, at this point, like, Ford comes, bails him out, and ropes him into going back into the exclusion zone. And
yeah, well, the dad ropes him into going into the exclusion zone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so, yeah, like, you know, they get there, and Joe Brody, Bryan Cranston, like, rips off his mask, and he's like, I knew it. He's like, there's no radiation in the air. There should have been radiation. It should have, like, he pretty much risks his life to make a point, because it was supposed to be so deadly that it would have killed him.
Yeah, so I mean,
so if he was wrong, he would have died.
Yeah, presumably. I mean, maybe not died necessarily. Like, you can go into Fukushima and you can take your face mask off for a little bit because you'll get a little more than normal, well, a lot more than normal background radiation. You can probably hang out there for a couple hours. Same with Chernobyl at this point in history. But
but he made it seem like the radiation levels were so bad that like he would have, like when he ripped it off, he's like, I'm still alive.
Right. Well, he looked at his Geiger counter first. He looked at his Geiger counter and it said 0.000. And I thought that's kind of crazy because, you know, there is background radiation everywhere on Earth. So it wouldn't be 0.000 anywhere on Earth, I don't think.
Right.
So
it'd be a little bit in the air.
But, you know, if you're thinking about the lore of it, it might actually work if you really think about it, because the Mutos absorb radiation, like they feed on it. So if the Muto's in the area and it's feeding on the background radiation that exists, or whatever radiation came from the nuclear power plant, because there would be waste there because of the meltdown that happened because it collapsed and everything. It probably sucked it up, you know.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, but they ended up getting caught,
naturally.
Of course, but instead of getting sent to jail, they get brought into area. Well, before then, they see that there's people setting up. You know, there's people in the old power plant. Essentially, they've set up shop there, and they get brought over there. And I don't know if you want to take this point.
Sure. So they're introduced to the Monarch individuals, specifically Serizawa and Vivian Graham, who again reprise their roles in King of the Monsters and stuff, which is awesome that they have like recurring characters over these movies.
Right.
So I do appreciate that kind of stuff. This is like the weird part for me. I don't really understand why Monarch, the supposedly like the intelligence behind these monsters, knew so little going into this event. I thought it was weird because in future movies they appear to be much more knowledgeable than they are in this movie, where they seem to be bumbling about in the dark and like just, you know, kind of working on like and kind of just like trying to figure it out one by one or piece by piece, step by step. So like Serizawa, he doesn't have any concrete evidence about what happened 15 years ago until Bryan Cranston shows up with some tapes. But my dude, like, use your brain a little bit. Do you think about it? It was definitely this thing that you have trapped right here. This is clearly what happened to the thing 15 years ago. So it was stuff like that kind of took me out of it a little bit. This whole like first part of the movie is really interesting though, you know. I'm, at this point, I'm really intrigued by everything. It's not until you know, after the fact when they release the Muto and the Muto's like going on a rampage through like Honolulu and different places that I start losing interest a little bit with the human efforts of the story. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause it is true that Bryan Cranston had such a presence in the beginning of the movie that Aaron Taylor Johnson, for whatever reason, as Ford, couldn't muster the strength to, or the acting prowess or whatever it was, to like be as interesting as Bryan Cranston's character. You know, Cranston put his all into this, and Aaron Taylor Johnson kind of just was there.
Well, I don't know if you noticed that, but he almost acts like that in all of his characters. He almost like has like the same personality with all of his characters.
Maybe.
Like there's not much range there. Like even as Pietro.
Yeah,
like
it was a little more, it was just like kind of blasé a little bit, you know, like he's going through the motions of the story and getting the script bit down. And even like there is emotion on the character, but he's a very stoic person.
Yeah.
And like you, if you could give Aaron Taylor Johnson the same role that Bryan Cranston had in the beginning, it wouldn't have been as emotional of a scene because I don't think he has the range necessarily. And I don't want to say that actually. I hate like putting someone down to lift someone else up because I don't think that's right, and I don't actually believe it personally. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson's a good actor. I just don't know that he was necessarily the right fit for this, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'm being too critical there.
No. I mean, there's criticisms of this movie, and I know that one of them being the focus on the human efforts rather than the actual like fighting monsters. And I know that that's really one of the biggest reasons why people come to watch a kaiju movie, is because I mean they're like, yo, I want to see giant monsters fighting.
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
And to be fair, they don't disappoint in the sense, like, I mean, when they do show the fights, they're pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how they were able to continue to make the monster fights really like interesting, and not only interesting, but like cinematically appealing. You know, like there were some really awesome shots in this movie, especially when it came to Godzilla and the Mutos. Even actually, there were some great shots with the humans, like when they were coming down off of the carrier with like the red smoke, and they were flying down for like a minute. That was a really visually stunning scene.
It really was. Like that scene was very ominous with the music and the way that the visuals were, with how it was dark and you know there's storm clouds and. You know, once they came, you know, but we'll talk more about that when we get to that point. But yeah, you were talking about how the Mamutos were, or I think it was the male one at this point.
Yes.
Which was moving through, you know, to Hawaii. they do a good job at showing the scale of these creatures and how big they are.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a human being, especially when Godzilla comes in. And I loved it when Godzilla came in.
It's such a fantastic entrance, dude.
It is. And the thing is that there's nothing that Godzilla does that it's crazy. It's just the things that happen around him that makes his entrance spectacular. Like when you see him coming, you see the sea receding.
Oh, and
then when he like comes onto land,
the tsunami and
yeah, right. They're like, oh man, there's a tsunami coming. Now, and I was like, nah, bro, it's something other than a tsunami coming. There's a big creature in there, and oh man, Godzilla, bro.
What always fascinated me was, how good the entrances are in this movie to Godzilla specifically.
Yes.
Like there's like 5, 6, 7 times in this movie where like Godzilla surprises you with just like being awesome and right there,
I know. Godzilla's he's
a stealthy guy,
awesome.
Man. Like
I know, for a big creature, like I'm like, yo, how is he like doing these surprise attacks? I mean, he's huge. You can hear him walking. But yeah, no, it's awesome though. But I mean, the scale of Godzilla compared to a person he's huge.
Dude, he's got some thick legs.
I know, and I love that they went with an original like version of him rather than that skinny version that they went with and the like 98 version, 98, 99 around there. I like that they used the Godzilla that a lot of people grew up with. And yeah, man, it's insane.
So let's talk a little bit about that scene because so they're in Honolulu. Ford is trying to get back to San Francisco, and the only way that he can get there is by going to Honolulu first, which is the closest thing to Japan that has like a airport that's working basically. So he tries to get there, and when he's there, the Muto follows, and not necessarily follows him, but goes where the nuclear power basically is, and Godzilla follows the Muto because as Dr. Serizawa keeps saying throughout all these movies is that Godzilla is like the key to balancing nature. He sets things right by basically wrestling with monsters until they die.
Literally Godzilla, this is what he's doing. And the thing that I like about Godzilla in this film is that Godzilla has like no interest in anything but wrestling these things. These people are shooting at him. He's just like he's like stomping through. Like, I mean, he's got like blinders for these Mamutos. Like, I mean, he's getting shot at and he does not care. He's got a mission. Godzilla clearly has a mission on his mind, and he doesn't care what else is going on around him. He doesn't care that he's destroying everything.
What's crazy about this scene in Honolulu is it's literally 55 minutes into the movie by the time we first get our look, not even of Godzilla as a whole, but just the scales on his back as he's like traveling through the water. It's another couple minutes.
I love that.
Before he's even on land. But there's a lot of like close-up shots in this movie, or like point of view shots that really put you into the feel of the characters that are inhabiting this world and are trying to get away, or they're trying to navigate life with all these kaijus fighting around them. So there's a couple where it's like binoculars, and I think it's Serizawa. He like looks at the water and he sees one row of scales, and he pivots, he sees another, and then again he sees a third row of scales, just like Godzilla has. It's just a powerful storytelling device, like just showing how, even with binoculars, he needs to physically move the binoculars to see different parts of the body. And then later in the movie, there's a really cool shot of, when they're going down, like off the carrier, and they're flying down with the red smoke behind them. there's a scene where it shows like through the goggles of Aaron Taylor Johnson's character Ford, and he's like breathing heavy, and then when he sees the monsters fighting and he's getting closer, he starts breathing heavier. He's like,
I know, yo, that he got so close. I'm like, bro, that's too close for comfort for me. I would be freaking out.
You would have been like, deploy parachute now.
I would have been like, I need to get away. There is a scene that I really liked. I think it was a nighttime scene. I don't know if it was the Honolulu, but when Godzilla was swimming in the water and there was a spotlight on him and you could see him like swimming in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Like the visuals for that were really cool.
He goes under the ships.
Yeah.
That's a cool scene. Dude, there's so many great shots of Godzilla and the Mutos in this movie that, like, every time they do show him, it's so gratifying. And that's why it doesn't bother me one bit that he shows up 55 minutes into this movie. This 2-hour movie.
It was a build-up.
It's a build-up.
It was a build-up. Like, they were building up to it. Like, you knew it was going to happen, and they were pretty much trying to set up all the players for that moment. You know, they're trying to make it a grand entrance. And
what were your
I would say that they didn't disappoint.
What were your two favorite, or what were your favorite shots of like Godzilla showing up? Because there was a lot of them in this movie.
There were a lot of them. The one with the tsunami one was cool.
That was cool, yeah.
I liked the one in it was San Francisco, where he's like underwater and like he's going under the ships and like you could see the ships kind of like rolling off of his back.
Oh yeah.
That was really cool. And I mean the bridge moment too.
The bridge moment was good too. Dude, there's so many good moments.
It's crazy though, because like in all seriousness, like he broke through the bridge because he was going somewhere. He was getting shot at and he did not care. These people were shooting at him and he kept on going. He did not try to clear the area. He wasn't trying to kill anybody. I'm telling you, he had a mission. Like, I mean, they clearly in this film didn't make him a villain.
Yeah, they didn't.
You know,
make him a
like
villain
he was
at all.
very neutral. He was a neutral character. Like,
100%.
So I thought that was cool. I mean, like, they've done Godzilla in different ways. I mean, I don't remember. Have you ever seen the old Godzilla cartoon?
Which cartoon? There was the 90s spin-off cartoon.
So there was a cartoon where, I think it was in the 90s. I don't even remember the characters, but I remember whenever something really bad would happen, they would press this button to call Godzilla, and Godzilla would come and like destroy whatever that was like in their way. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea. I gotta look that up. That sounds fun.
Oh my gosh, dude, you have to see.
Netflix actually made a trilogy of anime movies of Godzilla recently. I know that's not what you're talking about, but it's pretty cool. While you're looking that up, I'll tell you what my favorite shots of Godzilla showing up were. I can think of 3. The first is when they're like when Ford is on like that monorail thing, and the Muto's like trying to come and grab them basically, and then it gets like distracted, and you're like, well, what's happening? And then later on they show like a person's point of view from inside like some airport, and then just some huge foot stomp onto the airport, and that was Godzilla's foot. I love that scene so much, just because it shows how massive his scale is. And then my second favorite shot is in Chinatown in San Francisco, when they show like the lanterns in the smoke, and then like he kind of like comes out of the fog. It's such a sick scene, dude.
Okay, so the cartoon that I'm talking about is actually an animated series from 1978.
Okay, I have not seen that. I definitely haven't.
Dude, I'm telling you, I remember they had it on like Cartoon Network or something like that. And I remember watching it, and I remember these people being in a boat, and things would happen, and they would press a button, and it would like send out like the signal, and then Godzilla would come out of the water. And
it's crazy
fight
to me, dude.
Whatever monster,
it's crazy to me,
creatures.
like how like we grew up on these old Japanese shows that like came out in the 70s, 80s, sometimes the 60s even, with stuff like Speed Racer and the Gundam series of the 80s, Transformers. We grew up kind of off of those shows that made it to America years later. And it was dude, it was awesome. But yeah, I gotta check that show out. You said it was in the 78?
Yeah, it was like 1978 to I think 1981. Yeah, dude, it was a crazy cartoon. I remember it was about to turn 2000. They made like a Y2K bug was like about to attack, and they called Godzilla to like fight it.
What?
Dude, you have to see this commercial. It is funny. I'm going to find it. I'm going to send it to you, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed this show." Dude, I'm telling you.
I'm so confused. Wait, how did they even know about the Y2K bug back in like the 70s and 80s? That has to be something else.
Oh my goodness. Unless like I'm pretty sure the cartoon that I'm talking about was from like it was like it was an old cartoon. But I think it might have been a spot that was just made for that moment.
Oh, okay. I'm looking it up. Godzilla versus Y2K bug on Gojipedia. So the Y2K bug is a bug kaiju created by Hanna-Barbera that appeared in the 1999 The Godzilla Power Hour short Godzilla vs. Y2K Bug. The comedic short was aired as a bumper during commercial breaks on both Cartoon Network and its sister station Boomerang. So that's awesome. I have to look at this now. I have to find that. Okay, cool.
Dude, you gotta watch dude, I'm telling you. I am telling you. I mean, they've made so much Godzilla media, and I know what you're talking about. They did make a follow-on animated series that followed that 98 movie, the one in New York.
Yeah,
they came out with that.
The character has, in Japanese Godzilla lore, been renamed Zilla, and I think in one of the Godzilla movies that came out after the American Godzilla, they had Godzilla show up and just blast it to smithereens.
Oh my gosh,
it's pretty good.
So yeah, this episode has officially become just a Godzilla generic, or just Godzilla in general. We have steered from the Godzilla 2014. We're talking about every other thing about Godzilla.
We're gonna call this episode Godzilla 2014 and more. All right.
We really should.
All right. Let's just get back on topic and finish the discussion essentially. So
all right. Yeah, we're an hour and 12 minutes into this.
We don't want it to go on
so
forever.
Honolulu. We talked about Honolulu. Honolulu gets messed up by the Mamutos and kind of got Godzilla fighting, and Brody is trying to make it back to the mainland. Because everything's messed up. He hitches a ride with the military to, was it California? Or
because
did they overshoot?
They're going to.
I know they were going to Nevada, right? To that waste plant.
So okay, it gets a little confusing because that's when they introduce a third monster into the mix. So there's a third Muto. Or a second Muto, and plus Godzilla.
It's a female. The whole time we've been seeing is a male. Then they introduce a female.
Yeah, so they have the Muto in Honolulu going to meet up with the Muto in Nevada. And the one in Nevada has sucked up some nuclear waste and is heading to meet like in the middle with the male Muto. That's the female and the male. And I guess somewhere in the middle would be San Francisco, naturally. So
right, well, the female pretty much stomps through Las Vegas.
Yeah, to get there. Yeah, I don't know geography well enough to know if that's a legitimate stop, a layover to get to San Francisco, but it is in Nevada, and they're going to San Francisco anyway. So anyway, the big battle in San Francisco happens, and I'm skipping over a lot because a lot of the actual character-driven stuff in this movie is forgettable. I watched it literally earlier today, and I Not that I dislike the story. It's just kind of boring, you know? Like, you have these huge, massive monsters fighting over you, and you got a bunch of small humans who are
running around trying to stop them.
Not even trying to stop them. They're trying to, like, set off a bomb, and then they're trying to stop a bomb, you know, that they that they messed up on.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how Brody gets back towards San Diego, is that he hops on a train that a nuclear warhead is on, and it's like an analog one, because something that we didn't mention is that these Mudos have this field around them that acts like a EMP. Yeah. That anything that's in it, the electronics are knocked out. Except it doesn't fry the circuits. As soon as the field is gone, they actually come back on. And so yeah, like he makes his way back, and so yeah, we're in San Francisco. I think, were they waiting for the Mudos to get there, or were the Mudos already there? And then I know that they were waiting for Godzilla to get there, because they had the bridge set up, they had the ship set up, and
so it was like a convergence point. Like they kind of timed it, and they kind of knew when and where they were all going to be positioned, and it was going to be like right off the coast of San Francisco. But again, like I forget a lot of like the human-based stuff and like why it didn't work. I'm sure there was like, you know, logical reasoning behind some of the actions, but eventually we get to there's a great bridge scene where Ford's son is in a bus, and the bus driver's like, nope, screw this, I'm driving. And
I know, dude. I don't blame him, because I mean, there's this giant creature, and had they stayed in that spot, they would have been like knocked off the bridge.
Yeah, no, they would have. So it was prudent on the bus driver's part and everything. But you know,
everybody's trying to stop him. He's like, "Nope, get out my way."
Yeah. That's another like great. Like, you mentioned it. Like Godzilla showing up next to the bridge is another great scene, and then he just like walks through it as people are shooting him. He's just like, "Sorry, I got places to be."
Yeah, no, seriously, they're like firing on him. They are shooting Godzilla.
Yeah,
and Godzilla, Godzilla, he just really did not care. I mean, all that gunfire, everything that they're shooting at him, did nothing. He just kept on going. He knew where he wanted to be.
That was kind of how it was for everyone, or all the Mudos as well, because like they're so massive, their skins are so thick that no human weaponry is gonna like actually do any damage to them.
Not at all.
I don't know what they were thinking with after all that they were studying with them in Japan, after what they did in Honolulu, and like it was eating all the stuff in Nevada, the waste. I don't know what they were thinking, just feeding it with a nuclear bomb. What was the point of that? I mean, they obviously thought that it would destroy them.
Oh, that's
true. It probably would
yeah.
have, but you know, this is literally its bread and butter. Like this is. They gave my meal. No. What's funny? I actually laughed, you know, because the male Mudo gives the female Mudo like a present for the babies, and it's the nuclear bomb, and it's actually you know, in terms of like sci-fi stuff, and it was a really cool like scene because you can kind of, they're totally fictional creatures, but like their mating call wasn't so alien that we didn't understand it. You know, it was still a believable monster,
right? It was
creature dynamic.
It was almost animal-like.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You could tell. Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. No, yeah, that was funny. That nuclear bomb. They had. It was crazy how they did that though, because it was like all the eggs were like networking from that point, and it was like the babies were absorbing the radiation from that nuclear bomb and
growing from it.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, you could see all the like the little Mutos inside their eggs and stuff, and it was something. There was actually something I forgot to mention during the train ride to San Francisco. There was a pretty cool moment with the Mutos where they remember they get off the train and they go up the tracks a little bit over that bridge.
Yeah.
That track. And then one of the, I think it was it was the female. The female shows up. And that was a very like intense moment where, she was kind of like checking it out, and like it looked like she was about to attack until she heard a sound.
Yeah.
And they very much so made these things into the villains, because they would go after people. They would eat people. They would attack people. Whereas Godzilla, I just every time I think about Godzilla in this movie, like I love Godzilla, dude. Like this guy, he has a mission.
It's true.
He has this instinct. He has it's like an internal instinct that happens to be a mission, and he don't care. He did not care about the people around him. He's like, I want to kill these things. I want to kill them. This thing is big. It's stomping around, and it does not have my authority to be here. So I'm gonna take it down. Essentially, like that's what I got. And yeah, man, the fighting at the end was awesome. I mean, Godzilla. If you wanted a good Godzilla fight, we got it.
Staying with the Mutos a little bit, and especially like on that little train tracks where they're hiding from the female, that's where you first get a glimpse of like
of the egg
sack that she's carrying. It's like glowing, and it's kind of cool, but it's also disgusting. And you're just like, oh crap, we can't get more of these.
Right. And naturally, like me being a gamer, I was thinking like, oh, that's the part you would shoot at in a video game.
Yeah, seriously. Imagine the mess that would have made. Yeah. Later on, they try to dismantle the bomb. They can't. This is in like the Muto's lair. We see the eggs, in like their like nest area, and whatever. They take the bomb out of there because it's in the middle of the city at this point, and they can't have that obviously. So they put it on a boat. And it's supposed to go away, but Ford, he stays behind a little bit to blow up these babies, these eggs. And there's actually like, I hate to like even feel bad for the Mutos, but like the cry that the mother makes when she realizes that the babies are all dead, it's like actually like kind of like it's hard to say that I felt bad, but it was hard not to be empathetic, I guess, for this creature and her babies.
Right. It was very apparent that she was mourning.
Oh yeah,
like you could
that's
tell.
A good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
They did a good job on that and showing that she was mourning, and she knew because she ended up seeing Brody because Brody had made a sound, and she knew in that moment like this thing did it. Yeah. It's about to take him down. Mm-hmm. And I think he got saved by Godzilla, right?
Dude, he got saved by Godzilla several times. But yeah, I do love those moments where they show that the creatures have some consciousness, that there are these little beings that are to blame for some of the issues that that they have to deal with, basically. Ford is 100% the answer as to like why her babies are dead, so she has totally that right to like be angry at this dude. But right. Going back to the fight with Godzilla, at this moment I think Godzilla is like chasing the female back to the nest, and the male tries to attack from behind. Previously they were like double teaming Godzilla, but
Godzilla was getting like whooped up on, like I mean they were beating down on him.
But he swung his tail at him loved that. And crashed him into a building. And, he died. He just died. He was the smaller of the Mutos, and he just crumpled.
I like that they did that. I actually like that they did that because there are many species in the animal kingdom where the male is the smaller one, the female is large.
Yeah. Especially like
ants.
insectoid species are which the Mutos kind of were very like spider-like almost.
Yeah. No, I loved it, man. The male Muto was like flying in, and like Godzilla just does like a tail whip on him. But I think like before that, didn't he use his atomic breath a couple times?
No, I don't remember if it was just before that or just after that. But basically, I think he only uses the atomic breath on the female.
So I know that he's like throwing down that atomic breath, and when you see it, like you see the glowing from.
Oh, you know what it is? You know what it is? It was the Muto was looking at Ford, like as her babies were dying, and then in the background you start seeing the blue light glow, and then you
Dude, yes. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. This is right after they beat down on Godzilla. They're beating down on Godzilla, and so like you're thinking that Godzilla's down, and so yeah, like that. There's a whole moment with the baby, and then like she's staring down forward, and all of a sudden you see that beautiful blue glow, and you're like,
yeah.
And then so in that moment you knew. I mean, especially like fans of Godzilla, you knew what was gonna happen. You're
and
like,
that's what I'm saying. In the movie theater, I remember just being like, "Holy crap, they're giving him atomic breath," because we didn't know, or at least I wasn't paying attention to the leaks or anything like that, or if there was rumors, whatever. It wasn't in the trailers, basically. So that scene just blew me away, and it was sick. That's not the best use of the atomic power in the movie. We'll get to that in a moment. But
oh yeah, of course. But anyway. Yeah, Godzilla, and then I think it was like after that, the male like comes in, and that's when he does the tail whip on him. That was awesome.
That was cool. Well, anyway, Ford finally makes his way down to the dock in San Francisco harbor, and he kind of pushes the boat off. He has the warhead, and he's trying to dismantle it, but he's just exhausted. He's been at this for like a day and a half at this point, fighting off for his life.
Yeah,
and,
for real.
The Muto shows up again. He's just and she's pissed. She hates this guy. She knows this guy is the reason her babies are dead. So she gives him the stare of death, and it's zoomed in on just her, and then you see like her face kind of like crumple a little bit. Like her shoulders like change, and like the eyes stop getting locked onto him, and then the camera zooms out a little bit, and Godzilla's got her by the neck, like with his teeth, and dude, that's when he does like the best atomic breath. He like opens her mouth up and just blasts her until her head gets decapitated. It's the craziest thing that I think Godzilla had ever done up until this point.
Well, the thing is that I mean, in a Godzilla movie, you have to do something crazy. I mean, because it's Godzilla. I mean, it's a giant monster that shoots out radiation breath. I mean, True. Why wouldn't you?
That's a good point. Excellent.
And it's I don't know if you noticed, but especially in the way that he fought, Godzilla was intelligent in how to fight. Like he knew how to fight. I mean, like he knew how to hand-to-hand combat or something, because like to be smart enough to do that tail whip to hit that Muto into the building, come on now. But we thought that Godzilla was down because the building crumbled down on him after that.
You're right. Yeah, so he knocked the Muto into the building, and then the building fell on him, which gave Aaron Taylor Johnson the opportunity to go to the ship, and then the Muto was able to come after him. But there was a nice little moment between Ford and Godzilla where like he looked up at Godzilla, and like this like massive creature like looks back at him, and it's almost like a silent like, what's up? But and that's what I love about Godzilla. I mean, there's many things I love about Godzilla, but like the fact that he just like looks at humans and just like, hi, what's up? I'm Godzilla.
He's just looking at him like, and then like after that, Godzilla just goes off. doesn't do anymore. It doesn't destroy the city. Doesn't go after everybody. He's just like, peace. Just leaves.
Well, no. He sleeps at first, dude. He's just like, all right, I'm gonna sleep in San Francisco for the night, and then in the morning I'm gonna peace out. And he literally does that. Like, he's knocked out for the day, or for the night, and when he wakes up, the crowd starts cheering because, you know, this giant monster woke up and is leaving the city. And
I know. I thought that was pretty crazy, because I'd still be like, oh man, we still got some giant creature over here.
Technically, this guy did kill 2 of the other ones, but he's still a giant creature, and he could still kill us.
My thoughts exactly.
After this point in the movie, like, I'm surprised, or in this world, I'm surprised that, and I have to rewatch the other ones because I don't remember if this is actually what happens or not, but I feel like people would start worshiping like these ancient creatures, just because, you know, you see a godlike creature, you would have people that would become fanatics about it, like, oh, this is...
I think you're right.
I feel like that would happen in normal life, or in real life, you know?
I think you're right. I think they talked about that in Kingdom Monsters.
Maybe they do, actually. Well, I know that they had, like, ancient people worshipping them. Like, so they go into, like, old Sumerian ruins or something about, or whatever, and they have, like, these hieroglyphs of Godzilla in them. But I don't know if they do in modern day. I feel like that would be something that would be a cool and interesting thing to go into. But maybe we'll talk about that in a future Godzilla Monsters podcast.
Yeah, we're going to have to cover... I think that it would be cool to cover the rest of the, like, MonsterVerse movies.
So we'll put those on future polls. We'll have to.
Yes. The movie has a happy ending. Godzilla wins and leaves the people alone.
Quicksilver is reunited with Scarlet Witch.
A year later.
Yeah. Happily ever after.
Oh, man.
What are you guys' thoughts on this movie? Because I genuinely want to know. Are you a fan of Godzilla 2014? There's some excellent scenes in it. There's some excellent shots. And themes, and also monster fights, but I think some of the human aspects are lacking, which is kind of unfortunate because that's what they kind of latched onto.
Right.
Overall, I enjoyed the rewatch. I think it's better than I remembered it.
Yeah, I enjoyed my second watch through, and that concludes our episode on Godzilla 2014. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us here at Project Geekology for our 23rd episode, Godzilla 2014. We're taking off a week before releasing episode 24, but we'll be diving into our discussion of Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. Be sure to find all links to our show and socials in the show notes so you can keep up to date on all Project Geekology news and updates. If you enjoyed today's show, share it on social media, review it on your preferred podcast application, or talk to us directly online. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Adios.
Peace out.